can have a guy that's in the audience that's yelling, I him, now me, I him, now me, and then that guy gets arrested for child charges. Like, he's like, what is going on here?
But there was something else going on here. Epstein was not some sort of whiz kid hedge fund manager. Epstein was playing a part. Epstein was a LARPer. Epstein was cast for a specific role, and he played it really well.
I don't necessarily think they know what's going on yet. There's a lot of weird going on with this.
I know.
None of these things make any sense to me. Like, you're telling me that this kid who's not military trained, this guy, first of all, how did he get to the roof? How come nobody was looking? How come nobody was like, there's a direct line of sight between where he's sitting and those roofs? You guys didn't check? You don't have a drone? Like, that's insane. So he's on the roof. He jumps from the roof. He jumps down 14 feet.
Sudden passing might not have been random after all. At least that's what Joe Rogan isn't buying. What began as a tear-jerking tragedy has now exploded into one of the year's most bizarre and hotly debated mysteries, as new voices jump in, twist the narrative, and leave everyone wondering what truly went down behind the curtain.
So hold on to that thought. Did you know that Charlie Kirk's father, Robert W. Kirk, was actually the architect for Trump Towers? Also, did you know that Erika Kirk won Miss Arizona USA in 2012? Don't forget, Donald Trump ran Miss America from 1996 until 2015. Seeing the correlation here? Now, not saying age difference is a big thing, but did you know Erika was 5 years Charlie Sr.? But this is where coincidences aren't. Well, this was so arranged. And there's so much more to Erika Kirk. Kind of like how she was all into basketball, didn't want to be all girly, never liked to dress up, even cut all her hair off, and ended up being Miss USA. How does that happen? How do you go from sports to Miss USA? And then they meet at a Turning Point event in 2018, where she's interviewing for a job for Turning Point.
Didn't hold back on his podcast, bluntly calling out that the official story made zero sense. He highlighted a bunch of bizarre details the mainstream media somehow ignored, like that photo of the so-called suspect, a 22-year-old casually holding top-tier outdoor gear that, oddly enough, looked showroom clean in the middle of a supposed disaster.
When the Charlie Kirk thing happened, because my antennas went up about, they showed the photo of that kid, or the guy that they have, the 22-year-old, whatever. And I was almost going to be like, dude, do you think he's got the capability to do that?
Yeah, well, listen, there are people that look like that have the capability to do that.
Pretty accurate.
Nope, no? Not hard. Not hard at all. Let me just spell that. Okay. 200 yards from a prone position with a dead-on rifle. So if you have a dead-on rifle, so you set this rifle, you set your 0 to 200 yards, right? You know how far you're going to... Is not hard at all.
He a lot.
You don't have to a lot. I could do it tomorrow.
If you're but you are experienced. If it's someone that's never could they do it?
100%. Not really? If they've never they wouldn't know where to look. They'd have a hard time acquiring like when you look through a scope, like when the reticle is weird. Like it sometimes
takes a minute.
You got to know the distance that you have to be from it to really line it up in your sights. But you could get a guy like my friend Andy Stumpf, who was a sniper in the SEALs. You could get him, and he could show you how to do it in an afternoon, and then you could hit steel at 200 yards every time you pull the trigger.
One day you could learn.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah, not that hard.
Because it feels insane to me. I'm like, seems tough.
It seems tough. We still haven't figured out whether or not the gun that Trump had a sight on it, because we weren't sure if it had a sight on it or if this guy was using iron sights. That was 140 yards. If you shot with iron sights, that's a lot harder, because iron sights is you're lining up. So you have these two things in the back and there's one thing at the front of the barrel, and you got to line those up perfectly, and that's how you stay accurate. That is a lot harder to do.
It's like old have those, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Pistols.
Yeah,
like you can buy a Glock. That's what it comes with.
Right.
But this kid had a rifle with a scope. Now, here's where it gets weird. The first images of this rifle with a scope, I swear to God, it looks like he has a composite stock on it. Like, it looks like a modern 30-06 rifle. So a 30-06, so that's the rifle. 30-06 is like, that looks like a very modern-looking stock. I mean, it might not be. It might be just a bad resolution. It might be wood. It's hard to tell. But if you showed me that and you said, hey, this is my cousin's rifle, is this any good? I'd be like... Looks like a standard bolt action rifle, looked like a sophisticated modern scope on it. Sure. Now, apparently, the narrative is that this is his grandfather's rifle from World War I and doesn't have a serial code. Okay.
Interesting.
Okay, why? Wait,
Pointed out that the fancy equipment didn't even match the rugged setting described in official reports, saying the whole thing just screamed staged. But that was only the beginning. He exposed how parts of the story mysteriously vanished or got rewritten online, hinting that key details were being wiped from the timeline. Instantly, social media detectives dove in, dissecting every second, every word, every suspicious slip-up. Soon, people weren't just doubting the reports, they were side-eyeing the eerie silence from those closest to the case. With TikTok, Reddit, and podcasts ablaze, one thing became undeniable. This story was nowhere near finished. Rogan's fiery commentary had reignited the internet's obsession like gasoline on a spark. Then came the plot twist no one saw coming, reports of an older man at the scene shouting strange phrases, even yelling, "I did it before losing it completely. For Rogan, this wasn't random chaos. It was a perfectly choreographed distraction, a smokescreen to steer eyes away from the real story. He said the whole sequence felt too clean, too coordinated to be coincidence. When that clip hit his show, it detonated online, reposted hundreds of times within hours. And the biggest surprise? Guess who got tagged in it?
this is just a narrative, right? We watch a guy jump off the roof, and then we supposedly find this rifle. So if you can have a guy that's in the audience that's yelling, "I him, now me, I now me," and then that guy gets arrested for child charges, like he's like, what is going on here?
So
and then you
weird.
find this rifle, and then you say, "Oh, he assembled it and he reassembled it." Like, okay. A lot. If I wish I was a cop, I'd sit in a room like this.
Elon Musk, the world's favorite tech enigma, wasn't about to sit this one out. He jumped into the chaos with one of his signature cryptic tweets, "Truth doesn't hide forever." That single line detonated across the internet within minutes. Fans, sleuths, and conspiracy junkies flooded the comments, connecting dots, decoding Musk's message, and replaying Joe Rogan's clip frame by frame like it was the Zapruder film. Some swore Musk was hinting that he knew more than he let on. Others said he was just tossing gasoline on the fire for fun. Either way, the timing was suspiciously perfect, and suddenly, the whole world was asking the same thing. What truth was he talking about? As the viral clip spread like digital wildfire, speculation hit maximum overdrive. Social feeds erupted with theories and arguments about what Rogan and Musk really knew. Two of the most powerful voices on the planet were now poking at a story everyone thought was long-buried coincidence or coded warning, and just when things looked like they might cool off, Musk doubled down. He liked several posts from commentator Candace Owens, who had already claimed that certain details about Charlie Kirk's situation were quietly being scrubbed by major media. That tiny tap of a like blew up instantly. Hashtags about Charlie's widow started trending across every platform. Reddit detectives, TikTok theorists, and ex-debaters went wild, convinced Musk and Rogan were in on a truth bomb the public hadn't heard yet. Even mainstream outlets couldn't help themselves, pretending to dismiss it as online noise, while sneakily feeding the frenzy with winking headlines and loaded language. And every so-called fact-check only made people more obsessed. Then, the rail spark dropped. Rogan's full podcast episode finally hit the internet.
Right adjective, I think, to describe how a lot of us are feeling. And all I know how to do is to gather information, to research, and to investigate. And nothing is making sense. Now, it could not be making sense because we've not arrived at the conclusion. The FBI, I will say, has recently come out and said they're looking for another person. Good. Because what we have so far obviously cannot be it. I feel I was insisting that everybody read that book, Chaos, about the Charles Manson murders. And what we learn from that book is that if the government does want to hide something, what they do is they give you so much information that you don't even know what's real. So many different possible ways that things could have gone down, so many different manners, so many people speaking, so many publications publishing. And it's just meant to be chaotic, to drive you crazy and to just go, okay, I'm just going to accept whenever the authority says something and not prod any further. We can't allow that to happen here. I won't allow that to happen here. Because this something terrible has traumatized the world, okay? And I feel as though when it comes to this, the media, the government, the talking heads, everyone is confusing us about what actually took place with Charlie Kirk, this event, how it got set up. I even would like to know who.
Everything suddenly looked clearer and a whole lot shadier. Joe Rogan didn't just nitpick small details. He flat out questioned the entire chain of events. He broke down the odd timing, the strange behavior of key figures, and the investigators' awkward silence, like they were dodging something huge. Rogan never claimed to know it all, but his tone screamed one thing: too many pieces don't fit. He even joked that if this turned into a Hollywood movie, no one would buy it. It's that far-fetched. Then Candace Owens came in swinging, cranking the chaos up a notch. On her live stream, she claimed Charlie Kirk had started digging into topics that rattled powerful people across the US and beyond. According to her, his questions made all the wrong elites nervous. Owens told viewers that Charlie left a note hinting someone close couldn't be trusted. She even flashed supposed screenshots of messages where Charlie mentioned big donors suddenly pulling their money just before everything collapsed. Those screenshots went viral instantly. People zoomed in, matched timestamps, and debated if they were real or fake. Rogan's fans quickly noticed something eerie. Parts of Owens' story echoed his own. Both had mentioned broken trust, missing clues, and that gut feeling something off-screen was being hidden. That overlap sparked a wildfire of theories, convincing many a deeper pattern might be emerging, and no one had seen it until now. Then, right out of nowhere, an old interview clip. According to Andrew Colt, those SD cards contained behind-the-scenes footage from Charlie's last project. Hours of unedited material that could have shown where he'd been and who he'd met in the days before everything unfolded. He didn't accuse anyone directly, but the way he said it, careful, almost fearful, made people believe he knew more than he was allowed to say. That one revelation turned a storm into a full-blown hurricane. Suddenly, every corner of the internet lit up again. Rogan's followers connected Colt's statement with the missing timeline he'd mentioned. Candace Owens' fans said this proved her claims about hidden information. Even neutral viewers started to wonder whether this was a simple tragedy or the tip of something much larger. By the end of that week, the missing cards was trending everywhere. Amateur investigators built timelines, podcasts dropped emergency episodes, and mainstream outlets scrambled to keep up with the wave. Each new clip, each new quote, only deepened the mystery. The questions grew louder, but the answers, if they existed, stayed buried. And now, the same words keep echoing across every post, every thread, every video breakdown. Even weeks later, the unease hasn't faded, it's only grown. Every new post, every new theory seems to pull the story in a different direction. Some people think the missing footage holds the real explanation. Others believe the entire event, from the memorial to the media coverage, was carefully choreographed to hide something deeper. Podcasters, journalists, and online investigators are now calling it the Kirk mystery. Clips of Joe Rogan, Elon Musk, and Candace Owens continue to resurface, each one dissected for hidden meaning. Every pause, every phrase, every tweet is treated like a possible clue. The widow's behavior, once seen as emotional and human, has become the centerpiece of debate. Was she grieving naturally or playing a role she didn't choose? No one knows for sure. But one truth has become clear: the story refuses to die. The more people dig, the stranger it gets. The timeline, the missing evidence, the unusual public responses, everything feels slightly off, like a puzzle where the final piece was deliberately removed. And now, the question hanging over every conversation is simple but haunting. What if Charlie Kirk's story isn't over and someone's working very hard to make sure it never is?